Hello my dear friends and welcome to a new episode of Latin Dutch. And today we will be preparing a short rib soup, also known as Sancocho or hervido de res. And this recipe is so good that in my country say that it can bring back the dead. There are also different variations of this soup with chicken, hen or fish, but the base is pretty much the same, so feel free to try different combinations. So we have 2 pounds of short rib bone in, and on top of that I'm adding 3 bone sections. And I'm using from the leg, but feel free to change for whichever bone you like. Just don't skip it, because that's where the flavor is. 5 to 6 small potatoes, 1 sweet potato or yam, and 2 ocumos, which may not be so easy to find, but try the Latin markets, they may have it. If not, you can replace with green plantains, cassava, or just skip. Then we add 1 leek. We also add 2 white onions, 4 scallions or green onions, 3 garlic cloves, and perhaps one of the most important ingredients, a bunch of coriander. Then we get 2 corns in a cup, and I'm using sweet corn here, but feel free to replace with white corn, purple corn, whatever you prefer. A teaspoon of cumin, and about 3 spoons of adobo, which, as I have shared before in previous videos, this is a staple condiment of Venezuelan cuisine. But don't be afraid, it's no more than a combination of ingredients including salt, pepper, garlic, oregano, cumin, and among others. Feel free to replace with your favorite seasoning powder. A mid-sized carrot, half a squash or pumpkin if you don't find it, and from there we start with our preparation. In a large pot, I'm using a 6 quarts. Start by browning our meat chunks in a splash of hot oil. And we want to hear that sizzle as soon as we place the meat in the pot, and to sear it very well. Then we start adding all the pieces one by one, including the bones. And after a couple of minutes and helping yourself with a spatula, we start turning the meat chunks to evenly brown them to all sides. Some people skip this step, but please don't, because that browning and that foam that you see on the bottom of the pot is what will be the concentrated flavor for your soup. We then leave it cooking at high heat and we move back to our cutting board. We start cutting the onions in medium-sized chunks. At the end, they will pretty much dissolve in our soup. After that, we move to the leek, cutting it also in relatively large pieces. And finally, we will move to the scallions and do the same thing. Then, with the help of a bowl, we move them and add them to our soup. We mix them with the meat, so it all starts to cook as well. And we shift our attention now to our tubers. We start by peeling them all one by one, including our potatoes, our ocumo, our sweet potato or yam, all of them. And by the way, speaking of sweet potato, feel free to use the white ones or the pink ones. Both will do just great with your soup. So now that they're peeled, just go ahead and cut them in large dices. Probably about 3/4 of an inch each, give or take, aiming for a consistent sizing so they can all cook evenly. And here's where I do a little parenthesis for a short story. And originally this soup was cooked back in my country, well, back in the day, using wood bonfires. And of course all of that smoky flavor will infuse that soup for a wonderful taste. But hey, going back to work, so as we cut our tubers, we place them in a bowl with cold water to avoid them from oxidizing. And we move right away to our carrot, which we will cut in similar sized pieces. And finalize with our squash or pumpkin. Now we go back to our pot. And the onions and the leeks should have already cooked through and should be translucent at this point. Also, you should start to see some of the juices accumulating at the bottom of the pot. So with that, we can start throwing the seasonings. And as I mentioned before, I'm using my Venezuelan adobo, but feel free to use whatever seasoning mix you have available. You could also use bouillon powder, stock cubes, if you prefer. And we now go ahead and add the cumin, which will bring a special and unique flavor to this sancocho. Mix well to integrate the seasonings, and then go ahead and add our tubers, including the potatoes, carrot, ocumo, sweet potatoes, squash, you name it. All go into the pot, including the water where they've been resting. And here you will notice that you're missing some water, so please go ahead and complete covering all with water so it can all cook through. And some folks will also like to add here small dough balls, or called bollitos, and this will be the perfect moment to add them. Now cover and let it simmer at medium heat, and in the meantime you can move to chop the coriander, but please reserve it for later, don't add it just yet. You will have to let it all cook and simmer for about 60 minutes, but you'll need to keep on checking on your meat. Some cuts will take much longer to cook to reach this tender level. You could use a pressure cooker in advance to tenderize the meat if you're using a tougher cut. Next we'll be adding the corn to the soup, And as I mentioned, I'm using sweet corn, which is quite easy to cook, but if you use any other kind, please ensure to add it earlier so it cooks through. And finally, we move to the coriander, remember, finely chopped. And I recall my grandmother using whole bunches of it in the soup, but I guess it's a matter of style. And of course her soup was always superior, way superior than mine. Then we mix well all the ingredients and let it simmer for 5 more minutes, and that will be ready to enjoy. And as you can see, well, today I'm serving my soup with white fresh cheese cubes and a special salsa that I made with red onion, coriander and chili peppers. But hey, however you decide to dress it up, it's up to you. Some people would like to use lime on the soup for freshness, that's just another idea. So with that, my friends, we finish our delicious soup. I really hope you have enjoyed and that you get a chance to make it at home. Please let me know in your comments if you did and what did your family say about it. Did they like it? And thanks for following our channel, Latin Dutch.